Plug in a Hyundai EV and the extraordinary happens. From the charge time and range in the Ioniq 5 and 6 to the adventurous spirit of the Kona Electric to the 601 horsepower Ioniq 5N. Hyundai EVs make the extraordinary electrifying. There's joy in every journey.
EPA estimated 303-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 5 SE SEL Limited rear-wheel drive and 361-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 6 SE long-range rear-wheel drive with fully charged battery. Actual range may vary. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details.
Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
Hello, welcome. Let's chat. It's hard. You want to talk? I know, that's disappointing. Sit back. Let's work this out. How's it going? What are we doing here? Where are you going? Hey there. Wow. It's not always easy. It's amazing if you think about it. Let's think about this. Strange. I have some thoughts about that. Life is hard. Trauma bonded.
I didn't come up with anything that I thought was appropriate. Did you?
No.
Let's just do this for the rest of the hour.
Just us trying to come up with an opener?
Just like trying to talk and then looking at papers, sounds. I don't know.
Let's see, isolation, independence, pride and poverty, crying out via exercise. Yeah, none of these are really fun topics.
I couldn't find one that was fun at all.
Medically assisted suicide. I don't think we have an intro.
Well, you know what I was thinking? Actually, I did have something.
Oh.
I don't know if it's an opener.
Is it about chicken adobo again?
Because there's only 3 ingredients, right? 4. But I only... Stop talking about it. No, that's what I'm saying. We should just sit here in silence because everything we're going to say is so offensive.
Welcome to Trauma Bonded. I'm Elly Westberg, and I'm here with Therese Garcia.
Hello.
And today we're discussing This Is Actually Happening, episode 299, What If Your Only Hope for Life Was Choosing Death? A brief synopsis. Our storyteller is born ill. She grows up separated, untouched, hospitalized, and fragile. She feels unloved and controlled by her mother. She finds emotion and hunger pangs. She only truly feels alive when she feels hungry. Losing a dramatic amount of weight leads her to being admitted to an eating disorder clinic, which doesn't help her. She doesn't have a poor view of her body. She wants only to control herself. She finds no joy in others or in love or friendship, but does take pride in independence and in academic and later career achievements. After being banned from a gym for looking unwell, she turns to binging and purging. She does this every day, has for years, and continues to do so. Her teeth fall out, her hair falls out, she's had strokes. She has severe osteoporosis, her jaw is damaged. She is underweight, she is in extreme pain, but she cannot stop the system of control she's built for herself. She finds solace in a Canadian governmental program called Medical Assistance in Dying, or MAID. Rather than suicide, she wants her premature death to be a state-sanctioned and medically supervised. Knowing this option is available brings her great hope and helps her to carry on. While she waits for her turn to die, she creates her legacy, builds an inheritance to leave behind, and focuses on a movement to recognize mental health pain as equal to physical pain, and to humanize those with eating disorders, to treat them as they are whole without trying to change or fix them. And full disclosure, I'm the showrunner for This Is Actually Happening, and I have the privilege to vet stories and conduct re-interviews before they go to Whit for the final interview. and T knows nothing about anything. She comes in fresh, and this show, Trauma Bonded, is for the listeners, a space where we can talk about each episode, digest it, and reflect on it with empathy and also a bit of levity. That's Trauma Bonded. T, what stuck out to you is the heart of Anonymous' story.
This was a heavy one.
Yeah.
I've got one word. Surrender. So obviously there's when she makes the ultimate decision to pursue MAID, and ending, surrendering to her suffering. There's also her relationship with her mother, how she surrenders to her mother's control, appeasing her, and sacrificing her own needs, her own wants. Surrendering to her eating disorder. So this was an interesting one for me because it was both control. Having that control was about body image, right? But I think there's a level of being controlled by it as well. There's a compulsion. She's been doing it every day for 3 decades now. And then I just thought, surrendering to her own sadness. And so, yeah, that was my...
Talking about her mother, she also surrenders her relationship with her mother. Mine's also one word.
Oh.
I think it's kind of obvious, though.
Don't do that like that.
I'm not that happy with it.
Oh, no.
Validation. She wants it from her parents. She's not loved. She's always a burden. She wants it socially and from a partner, but she won't fully admit to it. And she wants it from the state. She was born into this life ill and will choose to end it the way she wants. And she wants it to be legal and justified and sanctioned, and that somehow makes her feel valid in her choosing to do it. I think it's a lot deeper than validation, but that's just something that kept coming back to me.
I mean, validation, I think of recognition. I think of being invisible.
Yeah.
I think that's a valid way of thinking about it.
But thanks for validating.
Of course.
My heart. Where to begin? Our mother is sexually assaulted by her own father and isn't believed by her mother.
Yep.
Hence begins this need to control by her mother. And this is really, at least within this story, where this begins.
Does it stem from wanting to protect?
I mean, I think so. Our poor storyteller, she's born ill, fully ill. It's like she's already begun life behind, right? She lives in this fear, being hospitalized. She doesn't find this healing. And then, of course, because of her illnesses and her fragility and her frailty, as a baby, it really does inform, I think, her probably entire attachment.
Yeah.
We have these perceptions of a baby and how they're supposed to grow normally and healthily, and these images of it being chubby and cuddly and healthy and sturdy. We talk about how then once the neck finds its own strength and you can hold your head up. These are all ways that we describe a healthy baby and a baby that you can pick up and hug and enjoy. Just the painting that she puts out there is just this decrepit, frail, broken.
Maybe if you touch her, she's in pain.
Yeah. I think that's how she sees herself. And I think as soon as you create that image in your mind, if that's how you began your life, it's really fucking hard to undo that, especially when it keeps being like confirmed over and over again by her mother.
So when my little girl was in the hospital for a couple months right after she was born, she lost quite a few pounds. When you start out at 6, she did get really small, and what we tried to do was just, even if we thought like, and she was connected to all these wires.
Yeah, I remember.
I was like, don't not hold her, you know, because
Right.
maybe the wire will come out, but there's like, you know, a central line in. You do not want to mess with a central line, you know.
Yeah.
But still, it was like a very conscious, like, you don't want to hurt her, but I got to hug this little one so she knows she's loved.
I mean, you and Gwen would put her on your bare chest, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So she could feel human touch.
Yeah.
Skin-to-skin contact is so important for attachment. Yeah.
But I can see it's hard, you know. You got a little baby that's frail.
Yeah.
It was a conscious decision to like hold her to make sure she felt that. And of course, me and, you know, the connection between us.
Yeah. It's possible. I mean, she doesn't say it explicitly, but it's possible she didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Which just like kind of reiterates every detail she's given in her story. It just makes it so infinitely sad.
Yeah.
So not only is she unloved and untouched, you know, she feels isolation. Again, she says that she's denied social activities and attending certain gatherings. But this is also something that it sounded like it was half was dictated by her mother, and then the other half was her guessing that's what her mother wanted and imposing that. And then you quickly start to see yourself as a burden over a blessing. And she talks about having a dependence on others. And it's like how much she hated these things about her childhood or herself. She wanted to root out, and she does. And then, you know, talks about her mom feeling like she was a possession to manage or take care of. Whether she expressly said it again or not, and again, we don't know. But it was believed that her mom was protecting her frail kid, and this is her means of control. And, you know, apparently she made her believe that she was too weak and not good enough to navigate the world. Her mom made her feel crippled, even though she wasn't. And that's so that she needs her and that she feels a dependence on her. And I think our storyteller, the things that she hates the most is being dependent and being a burden. And I think that's why she keeps to herself so much.
And I thought it was so disturbing and sad that her mom would say, like, you're too skinny. No one's going to want to hug you.
And then this bitch doesn't hug her.
Doesn't hug her anyway.
Yeah. I'm the only one that's going to hug you, and then doesn't hug her. What the fuck? And it's so sad to think of her being that child and to justify in your mind, right, that mom won't hug me, that you have to explain to yourself a narrative around why my mom won't hug me. My mom won't hug me because it's to protect me because I'm so frail. The fact that she had to create a narrative, because otherwise to accept that she just was unloved would be so horrific at that age, at that young age. You know, it make your head explode. You know, all we want, we just want so much to connect with people. But when you're young, you just want to connect with your parents. You want to feel loved and connected to your parents. That's why, like we were talking about, attachment is so important for newborns. If she could see her mother for exactly who she was when she was a kid, that would have like truly devastated her. So she had to create a narrative in her mind as to why she wasn't hugged. That is so fucking sad. I can't even deal with it.
I will say this, and we can cut this, but I was at a comedy show with Gwen last night, and we were kind of waiting for them to get on stage. And I was just like, I had just listened to this the like third time or something, but it was like on my brain, and we're at a comedy show. And we were just talking about our days or whatever. And I was like, man, I just listened to this podcast. And I started to describe it to her. And she felt like sick to her stomach and sad. And she felt it looks awful. And I'm just talking, like describing. And she's like, can you stop, please? It's like, I was like, oh my gosh, like not the right time, probably, and also
hey,
not
Petaluma,
reading.
we've got Bilbo Baggins here to do his clown fart jokes.
Yeah, and not like reading the
Put
room.
your hands together.
Yeah, like not. It was on my mind. Like it was. I mean, this is a really heavy one, and I wanted to talk about it clearly. And it was a big part of my recent day. And like, she's like, can we maybe talk about this later?
Poor Gwen.
I know what she has to deal with, man.
Did it put a damper on the comedy?
No.
Okay.
We turned it around.
So back to the show.
Sorry.
She reiterates again, she really takes pride in this time growing up when they were living in poverty. She really takes pride in independence. She seems to follow her father's point of view about this idea of no charity. Why do people hate being helped? I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying a lot of us do have an aversion to asking for or accepting help. Why?
I think that's why someone had said when they were giving us advice, one of the twins are like, accept the help. People are going to ask if you need help, and don't be like, no, I don't, because you do need it. Yeah. So that was a conscious decision, because a lot of times we're like, no, we got it. And we just look at each other like, we're dying,
Yeah.
It's so, for me, it's just so natural to be like, everything's fine,
Why? What do you think that is? Where does it come from?
part of being an adult or something. When I was a kid, I was like, I need the help now, part of an adult, being an adult. I don't know. Why do you think?
Well, I think it comes down to you want to be perceived as having your shit together. People that can handle it all don't need help. But that's also a terrible idea that any of us can handle it all. Everyone needs help from time to time. I just think it's fascinating that we don't want to ask or accept help. It can be used, it's like a political chip.
I think you're just trying to find a way to get politics into it.
Nope. But there's this perception that like the safety nets that we have in place, from the government, that those are inherently bad in some way, that it makes people dependent on the government, or it's just giving money away from free or for free, or keeping people like in a taking mentality where they're just abusing the system. Like all of these sort of like ideas are things that we've been socialized with, and I think that does just creep into our regular lives. I just think it's really fascinating because everybody, if you ask anybody, 90 out of 100 people will say that they love helping others.
That's true.
So if there's so many people wanting to help,
should really match them up.
Right. there are all these people wanting to help, but no one wants to take help because they'll be perceived as weak or needy or abusive, like taking, you know?
Half the people who say they want to help don't really want to help, though, right?
Yeah.
But there's something about, not being a freeloader, like, I'm 30 living with my parents, like that is looked down upon, when really it's like, oh my God, a lot of cultures like stick with their family for a long time. It's great for your wallet. It's great for the connection with your fam, probably, sometimes, maybe not, but
But there's this judgment put on it that like you failed somehow. That's why you're going back there. I moved in with my parents at 40, and it was because of a lot of different things. I was still working a job. I was making good enough money to live on my own, but I chose to do that for a lot of reasons. And I look back on that year fondly. I got to spend a lot of time with my grandma that I wouldn't have got to, and she died shortly after I moved out. And luckily I was self-possessed enough that I didn't really give a fuck about what other people thought about me. But I think that just generally that is very shameful to see an adult person. We consider it a shame in America, where our culture is very individualistic and we want everyone separated. But, we consider that a failing on someone to move back in with their parents, that they've done something wrong or that they're not successful in some way. Like thinking about this concept of help, I think it's gotten to the point where to ask for help, you are very vulnerable. And that's why when someone asks me for help, including you, it makes me feel good because I know that you're having to be vulnerable. And it also says to me that you trust me. You have a problem that you need solved, and you're asking me to help solve that. That means that you trust in my ability to help you do that. And that means so much. And it feels so good to be able to do that for someone else. And I know what you're saying, like some people might say they want to help and they don't really want to. But I think that it is a true form of joy to actually truly, legitimately get to help someone out of something hard. And that's such a rarity to get to do it for someone because no one feels like they can ask.
And it really builds a connection, I think. And I think it's based on that trust you're talking about.
Totally.
Builds that trust. And now, I want to help you out. Let's help each other. And all we're doing is,
I feel like that's happened so many times between us.
Sure.
The asking and the helping and back and forth. And it has bonded us forever for life. But it's hard. It's hard because you have to really work at that. There is a lot of vulnerability. There is a lot of trust. And there has to be a lot of communication around that. And if you can pull it off, I highly
You should try. Yeah.
You should try it, you guys.
Who's someone you feel close with,
Feel someone, and you need help, ask for help. I guarantee you they want to help you. If you trust them and think that they might be able to help you out of a bad situation, ask for help. They'll give it freely, I promise. And it will bond you. Anywho, I didn't expect that to go there. That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this mother's suicide attempt.
Okay. It's interesting, and not to be so insulting the mom, but sounds like true happiness comes in fur coats and jewelry and
having a hot daughter.
I don't know.
I mean, we don't know much about this woman, but most of what we've heard is not great. To blame the father. And I think that's probably the most that we need to talk about. We don't know her. We don't know her experience. It sounds like she's awful. But it sounds like she's been through some shit too. And I think, but the biggest point about this suicide attempt is it was truly a turning point for the storyteller, as, you know, as soon as, well, one, it's devastating that she somehow thought it was her fault somehow, which is terrible. And then two, when she finally, you know, when the mother finally expresses that it's the dad's fault, you know, it gave the storyteller finally something. It's like she saw her mother for who she really was, and now she could dismiss her. It doesn't add in her healing, but it does take a negative voice from her. And then
it's like it transferred from her mom to, herself.
She really doubles down. And once she gets control back, she really doubles down on the control of herself.
Yeah, I found it interesting. You know, she liked feeling hungry, but the way she described it was she felt real emotion.
Yeah. And like went to extremes. She masked her pain, anger, and frustration. She didn't let herself feel it, but she could feel and enjoy hunger pangs.
Everything about that. It's like, it's not an emotion and it's not helping you live.
But she considered it an emotion that made her feel alive, ironically. Let's talk about the way that she does live in extremes. I think it was interesting that you said in your heart, you called it compulsion. I think she's I think it's compulsion too. I wrote that down. It feels like compulsion to me. And I just, you know, I kind of Googled what compulsions are, and it's repetitive behaviors a person feels the urge to do, often in response to an obsession. And I just feel like that is her completely. You know, to literally exhaust your body physically from eating and vomiting, the kind of rigor that takes, the commitment, the time.
Yeah, at the time.
And it's this not eating and the exercising and the binging and purging. And it's not because I'm too fat. It's because my body is the only thing that is mine and no one else's. And it also makes sense that she's obsessed with succeeding in like school and being respected by her coworkers, because that's also her mind. Again, a thing that is only hers.
I got to thinking about what we've done every day for the last 2-3 decades. Is there anything you've done every day for the last 2-3 decades? I'd say eat, sleep, drink water every single day.
Yeah.
For 20, 30, 40, your case 50 years. It's like, you know, for another one of those things, because those are things you do to stay alive, right? It's almost as if this is something she does at this point to stay alive, but it's like doing the opposite.
Yeah. You know, she talks about when she was a teenager that she sort of took pride in like the loneliness and isolation, and it motivated her in school and in sport. And it felt foreign or strange to her to open up to love because she never felt it. And I think this is so devastating because at the end, she talks about like future scenarios, right? Like, I might get my maid papers and I might live another 80 till I'm 80 or 90 and die in my bed an old grandma. And because I've met, you know, a partner on my journey, and like, man, she wants love so bad. She'll never fully admit it probably, but it's something that she obviously desires so much. It just makes me so sad.
Wants, I think, and needs.
She does.
As does everyone.
As does everyone. Absolutely right.
Another thing I've done every single day is probably talk with someone.
Yeah. When's the last time you didn't touch someone for a long time?
I don't think there's been any day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Lesbian.
Like COVID, you know, 2 days of not touching someone. It's like, does not feel good.
It's so much a part of us that we don't even like realize it. Most of us. Remember did I tell you about how I was looking into jobs as being a hugger?
Oh, yeah.
Pays like $50 an hour to hug someone. That's not what it was called, though.
It was like snuggling.
Yeah.
Cuddling.
Cuddling.
Yeah.
And this is, it's not sexual, you guys. It's based on this idea that a lot of seniors live alone and uncared for, that no one visits them or sees them or reaches out to them, and they go a long time without any physical interaction, especially hugging. And this is a service that is sort of part of a mental health package or taking care of the whole person, where you would go and sit or lay down with someone and just hold them for a time. Which, again, on the face of it, is so fucking sad and devastating and depressing to think that this service is needed, but two, that how important it is for us to touch and be touched.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having a physiological reflex to puke by just thinking about it? Like, do you know what that means?
It's just a natural thing.
That's how much she's conditioned her body.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the way her body functions. That was upsetting in and of itself. Let's talk about the difference between suicide and MAID. She tries to make the distinction that suicide to her is sort of spur of the moment and maybe messy, right? Whereas MAID, or medical assistance in dying, is passing on in a conscious way that's planned with no loose ends. So it's planned, it's peaceful, it's humane. I think a lot of people, and she tries to address this in the episode, a lot of people would say, why don't you just kill yourself? Well, she lists reasons why. But I'm still not entirely convinced that these are the only reasons why. I think that she needs to be validated by the state, by the nation state of Canada. I think she needs to be told that her suicide is legal and it's right and it's warranted and it's justified, and her suffering is real and her suffering is justified, her pain is acknowledged, and a whole fucking big ass government said so. I think she needs that.
It's important to her.
And I'm not making a judgment about it, but I think it's important to her.
I mean, it's a way to acknowledge that physical or mental pain is just as painful as physical pain.
Yes, she wants that validated. She wants it stamped. But I think it's also about her control. Why do we all fear death? It's not just because is there a hell? Is there a heaven or a hell? Where does our spirit go? Are we reincarnated? Do we turn to dirt? Are things going to eat us? Are we going to feel it? People don't really care about
feel it.
People don't. I don't think people care about the afterlife so much as people know that death is imminent. It is part of life, and we want to know how it's going to happen and when it's going to happen. Or we don't want to know, but that's what we really want to know. And I think that's part of her. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the banging. That's part of her control. She wants to know when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. And as soon as the government said, hey, we have that, and we're going to tell you when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen, that's what released the burden from her. I think it's one-hand validation and one-hand control.
Mm-hmm. It's like, too, when they approve it, let's say, she's like, okay, you've proved it, but I'm still going to decide when that's going to be.
And I too also think she realizes, because her mom attempted it and didn't succeed at it, she realizes there's possible failure involved when there isn't medical assistance in dying. And the controlling nature of her refuses to leave that up to chance. And that's why she won't do suicide on her own.
That's bold. I mean, the way she describes it.
Am I saying something bold?
I mean, I don't think that's how she necessarily describes it, right? I mean, she says, but I think that's a good way to interpret it, what she says. But she says things like, it gives me a full life. There's a beginning and there's an end. But she says, yes, I'm leaving on my own terms. And that does have that sense of control bit to it, right?
Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, like I agree with a lot of what she's saying. I've said these same things before. I'm not interested in living some long ass illness in a hospital where they're trying to fix me and I'm just like holding on to scraps. That doesn't interest me. I also don't want to be a burden. I also don't want to try to be cured. I also don't want to have all of my assets and inheritance for others spent trying to keep me alive for a few more years. I also want to decide when I leave and how I leave. It is my life. If it's not my life, whose is it? I agree with her so much in so many ways, but I don't think she's being honest that it is about control, validation, and control.
But she's also in deep anguish.
No, I know. I'm not judging her.
I know. No, I know.
There's no judgment there at all.
Yeah. But I think there is a sense of control there. But
I think it's what we're afraid of the most.
Yeah.
When's it going to happen and how is it going to happen? And a lot, so many of us have just we're afraid to acknowledge it at all. A lot of people don't want to talk about death. A lot of people think they can escape it. It's not coming for them. But it's coming for us all. And it scares us to death to know that we don't know how or when.
Final destination.
Yeah. Every situation's final destination. Okay. Medical assistance in death. So I looked this up a little bit. So assisted suicide is suicide with the aid of another person. In the United States, the term assisted suicide is typically used to describe what proponents refer to as medical aid in dying, in which terminally ill adults are prescribed and self-administer barbiturates if they feel they are suffering significantly. The term is often used interchangeably with physician-assisted suicide, physician-assisted dying, physician-assisted death, assisted death, and medical aid in dying. So I didn't know this, but it is legal in Washington, Oregon, California, New Mexico. Sorry, I'm looking at a map and trying to figure out the states. I think that's Colorado. Did you know that?
I knew it was legal in Oregon from that documentary.
About that one woman that was like 30.
How to die in Oregon or something?
Oh.
Is that what it's called? She had cancer, I think.
Like brain cancer?
It's been a long time.
Yeah. Here it is. In 2014, the death of Brittany Maynard, an advocate for the legalization of aid in dying from brain cancer, led to renewed debate in the United States over assisted suicide, and it was cited as being responsible for bills in several states on the topic. Her home state of California, which she left to reside in Oregon to access its Death with Dignity Act, became the 5th state to authorize aid in dying in 2015.
I think it was based on that, yeah.
Yeah. T?
E?
What do you think about medically assisted suicide?
I'm for it.
You're pro?
I'm pro. I mean, especially when you're terminally ill. This one was a little bit tougher. And she kept saying things I was thinking, which made me feel like I felt bad for thinking that way, Like, couldn't we... And I just go into fix-it mode, like she was saying.
Yeah.
So everything she mentioned, I was like, oh my God, I feel bad for just trying to fix you and feel like there's hope for you, but I couldn't help it.
Yeah, same. You know, we talk about self-acceptance, and she truly does have that, and we want to root it out of her.
I know, we talk about like identity, right?
Yeah. We want to tell her she's wrong and she needs to be fixed, and there's so much life to enjoy.
And she's like, have you lived my life? Like,
Yeah.
no. Have you walked in my shoes? Like, not even close.
Is it my life or yours?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough though. I all the time thinking about my kids, you know? When she told her dad, and her dad apparently is a logical dude and, you know, gave his blessings or, you know, accepted it. I just could not imagine
saying that to your kid.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'd be more on the mom side of things.
You are emotional.
I mean, I don't think I'd be all that other stuff, but like if my kid said that, I'd be like, I feel like I'm dying. Like, you know, that's how I would feel.
Yeah. Ugh.
And do everything I could to like try to save them.
To fix them.
Yeah.
Why is suicide illegal, do you think?
It's illegal. It's a sin.
Unforgivable sin.
Unforgivable.
Allegedly.
I mean, it's one of the most dreaded ultimate things you can do to end your life, end your own life.
But what if someone is really, really suffering and maybe it's not obvious to someone else, but they know it in their heart and their soul, their mind?
It's a toughie, you know. I mean, she was convincing me everything I was thinking. Like I said, she had something, you know, really good way to, like a good retort, you know.
Do you think it could be something that, I don't know, we could rationalize more with like an age of consent? Like, I think we're sad when teenagers do it because we believe it gets better, right? The heaviness that a teenager feels, that they haven't experienced more of life.
There's a lot of life ahead of you at that point.
There's a lot of life ahead. But do we feel less sad when it's someone 50? People were really upset when Anthony Bourdain did it, when Robin Williams did it at 65. At what point do we accept that someone is taking control of how their life ends, that they've seen what life has to offer, they've had a good experiencing of it, and now they want it to go? Are we more okay with that than someone that hasn't had experience at life? You know, Robin Williams was a depressed motherfucker. He made it to 67? Is that not good enough? Do we chastise him for deciding that he's had enough? Like he suffered that long. He gave us all a great amount of joy, and now he's decided to leave. Are we mad about that?
Well, not mad. I don't think mad is the emotion that I feel.
Is it more sad that he didn't die of a heart attack or something that naturally just took him, that it was at his own hand?
I think she's right when she says there's a little bit of maybe selfishness when it's the people that are left behind, that maybe they care more that you ended it yourself and that now you're leaving us behind, all these people that love you.
But we all will leave people behind. That is the nature of life and death.
Not on purpose, right? I mean,
what if someone's really suffering though?
Of course. I mean, she convinced me about herself. And I very much think that mental health is just as important as physical health.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's valid. I think there's a lot of sadness around it, though.
Well, death is sadness, no matter how it happens.
That's true.
But it's coming for us all.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I wouldn't do it to my mother. But once she's gone, the world is my oyster.
Well, you got to think of other people too. Elly.
Yeah, but
I'm not talking about me. talking about them kids.
They'll be fine.
So you might want to chill out on that.
All right. Do we have anything else? Let's end on a high note.
Oh, and on a high. And on a high. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, this was a powerful episode. Be interesting to follow up with her after March.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, I want her to have peace and I want her to have rest. But there also is a part of me that really wants her to get, I think, what she really loves, and that's to feel a connection with another human being. I really want that for her.
Yeah.
If you're listening, I know it's scary, but be vulnerable. You were able to, on this podcast, just open yourself up and let someone in. It's awful, but it's also great. I don't know.
That's tough, Elly.
I know.
She's very empowered.
Yeah, she's decided, for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting, too, because she doesn't mention that she's ever been therapized, but I assume that she's probably had to go through some medical or therapeutical evaluations and trying to get qualified for MAID. But that's not something that's focused on. And honestly, I don't remember.
Well, you'd think with, treatment she's gone through with her eating disorder, there's a lot of that, right?
She seems to be very skeptical, though, of all the help available in that arena.
We're not ending on a high still.
I know.
So maybe we should just...
If you have someone next to you, let them know they're loved. And if you need something, if you need help in a real way, ask for it.
We can help. We can help.
We can help. Call us.
Just email us.
Email us. Don't call us. Email us.
Yeah, email us.
Or Instagram. Just don't give up and know you're not alone. Thank you for listening. This has been an episode of Trauma Bonded. You can find our show where podcasts are kept. If you like us, please rate and review us on Apple or other places, or reach out on Instagram. Thanks to Anonymous for sharing their story and giving us the opportunity to talk about it. And thanks to This Is Actually Happening team, including Whit, Missildine, and Andrew Waits, and the maker of our music and website, Nathaniel Francesco Tamboli. Thanks to Cathay Sites for editing this episode, and to Katie Capel for building those blasted Instagram posts. You can contact us at traumabondedpod@gmail.com and find us on Instagram at traumabondedpodofficial, or visit our website at traumabondedpod.com. We are trauma bonded to the story, to the storyteller, to the listeners, and to each other. Thanks for spending time with us today. Love you, T.
Love you, Elly. Good job. Hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Trauma Bonded.